Haha, that looks really cute.
Oh, I love it!
You're listening to the Mike Cassidy Photography Podcast. It's your real-world photography business masterclass with no BS and no magic shortcuts. Here's your host, Mike Cassidy.
And boom goes the dynamite. Yeah. Howdy. My name is Michael, and I'm your neighbor. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the hoedown. I fell a little behind, didn't I? I got busy. I told myself I'd either go on a hiatus for a little bit through Christmas and put out a short episode that said, I'll be back after the holidays, or maybe I decided I'll just trudge through it and make the time, and I decided to trudge through it, and suddenly I realized it's been 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, or however since the last show, and I didn't realize it was that long. It's just such a hectic time for me, so I probably should have gone the hiatus route, but here I is. Now I've been on the go pretty much nonstop for the past couple weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Oh boy. And I have this mental issue that if I'm not on the go nonstop, that all these Christmas projects I'm working on, nothing's going to get done on time, and people aren't going to get their photo books on time. So I think part of the problem is I probably take on too much work during this time of year, and I need to throttle it back a bit. I think next year I'm not going to take so many Christmas sessions. And though good news is, I think my last session for this year is on Wednesday. I'm recording this late on Monday, the 14th, so I have 2 days, and that's it. That's my final session for this year. And I get to take a whole break, I think, for a week and a half. I think the 5th or the 3rd, I start back up in January, so I get to recover for about a week and a half before I have to get back and get back to work. So it gives me a little bit of time to get caught up. So, and what have I been doing? Well, just working like crazy and sitting here all day and working on photos. And here's a good thing that to bring up is just make sure you're backing up your work. Today, after I ate dinner, I sat down with Lightroom and I was finished up one project, and I'm like, yes, I'm going to move that folder into an archive hard drive that I have, and Lightroom just froze. It just, nothing would happen. It just sat there for at least a minute, I'm going to say, and then window popped up, an error message window from them. Do you want to send this issue to Adobe and fill in what happened? And nothing, I couldn't reopen it. Every time I tried to restart it, it was that this catalog is already open, and I couldn't get into my pictures. I turned off the computer, and when I went to restart it, it literally took almost 4 or 5 minutes to start. The screen was black. It just was not loading my window screen. It was just sitting there, and I was like, oh no, something really bad happened when I was trying to move those photos. So just make sure you're backing your stuff up, because man, when it comes to computers, especially, they're never going to stop working at a good time. It's always going to be a bad time. And I remember that happened to me a couple years ago, and I think it was Thanksgiving 3 years ago maybe, and I was doing a bunch of Christmas sessions over Thanksgiving weekend, and I came home with cameras full of photos, and I went to load them in my computer, and my computer went it made a sound that no computer ever should make, and that was the end of that computer. I had to rush out and quick get another one to offload all this work, and I bought the second computer and started it, and I think I started to copy all my stuff on there, and that computer made a and it died, not even having it a few hours. I had to return that one and exchange it for another. So just make sure you have your stuff backed up. That's all I'm going to say. And one thing I wanted to note about this episode is I recorded this a couple months ago, maybe sort of late in the summer, and you'll hear me referencing, the sudden drop in COVID cases and how things seem to have leveled off. So I just want you to be aware that this was recorded a while ago, because now, as we all know, things have shot way, 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 way back up. So that was sort of what was going on late in summer. And just keep that in mind when you hear us talking about that a little bit. And other than that, it's just gotten very cold suddenly. We're having our first snow. I think it's due, well, the day of my last session. I think it's supposed to possibly start snowing on Wednesday, so that may be a washout if we get a bunch of snow. And it got really cold, and this is the time of year it makes me wish I was out west. And speaking of out west, our guest is in the west. Today's guest is Sarah Spackman of Sarah Jessica Photography, and Sarah is a Western wedding photographer. She's a business educator and a self-proclaimed crazy horse gal. And anyone who self-proclaims themselves crazy, that is someone just for me. As a crazy person myself, I completely understand. And I had a great time chatting with Sarah, and we had a lot of fun, and we talked a bit about Western weddings and her work, and we were discussing some photos, and I just want to make the links are down below for the photos that we were discussing, so you can click on them and see what we were talking about. It's fun to sort of follow along at home. And she likes helping people with their marketing and social media, so we spent a good deal of time talking about creating your personal brand and getting yourself out there, and how everybody needs to do more of that stuff. And it's a good show. I'm glad I met Sarah, and I have a feeling we'll be speaking again. So what I can say is go get your boots on, give this one a listen, and as always, I like hearing from you, and you can connect with me online on Instagram at Mike Cassidy Podcast, or via my email at mike@thephotographypodcast.show if you feel like reaching out to me. And thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next show. Yeehaw! This podcast and my website both focus on the goal of translating the art and business of photography and making it accessible and understandable to everyone. My goal is to provide the best content in photography for you, the listener. I've assembled a great team of photography guests and experts to make this happen. What I've chosen to do is create a subscriber model for my audience. If you value what I'm doing, you can become a member and support the show. In exchange, you'll receive benefits over and above what's available for free. The membership program includes episodes with complete, unabridged interviews with our guests, early episode access, participation in AMA episodes, and there's more. If you'd like to learn more now, head over to thephotographypodcast.show/subscribe. Now, without further delay, here's today's episode. But I thought, since you're out there in the Wild West.
Yeah.
I thought we'd have some. Is that appropriate or
That's
no?
That's amazing. I love it.
Get me in the mood.
Right? I feel good. I feel good. It's my anthem.
I didn't want cultural misappropriation, but I figured.
Yeah, no.
Talking about Western weddings.
Yeah, I could get into that.
Western things.
Yeah.
This is all new to me, so remember I can't dance today.
I know.
Ow,
I love it.
Yeah. It's okay.
It's okay.
So you're in the wild, wild west.
Yeah, I am. I am pretty much as far west as it gets for the most part.
And now, was when you were starting to do the Western weddings, was that just every wedding out there like that is Western, or is that just really just what you chose to do as far as that particular type of Western, or it doesn't really matter to you?
So I definitely brand myself as a Western wedding photographer, but I don't only do Western weddings. I do other weddings, but I'd say a majority of them are definitely country weddings or people that get married in barns and things like that. There's a lot of barn venues around here, so it's something that I just relate to and that I love, and the types of people that have those weddings usually click with me pretty well. So
right.
It's, I wouldn't say everybody's doing it. There's definitely more cityscape venues.
Oh, is there?
Yeah,
because out here, like we were talking, there's nothing like that out here on the East Coast. So that was so interesting to me, and of course I was like looking through your Instagram, and and this isn't helpful for people kind of like at home at all, but who cares about those people?
Right.
This is all about me,
Right?
Sarah,
Right.
and my like curiosity. So I'm sending you the little link. I had these in the notes, like you can click on that, like these pictures that were in there. Like this is just so interesting to me, and how this is typical of what you do, like what's going on. And this one, like the good one, the one I like, it was like the fourth one in here. So we're just looking at pictures on her Instagram. I'm going to put these links in the notes for the show so everybody can see them. But there's like, I don't know, about 5 or 10 bridesmen, or actually groomsmen, standing outside this like structure, and all the guys are in their cowboy hats, and the women are all dressed up. Is that like typical? Is that like
so it is. It's something that and not all of them are this like cowboy westerny. Yeah, this was definitely like a real good one. She paid so much attention to every tiny little detail and just put so much work into that wedding. It was amazing. But I mean, the cowboy hats, the boots and things like that, that's pretty common for weddings that I do, or even just like a barn venue, but maybe they're not all cowboyed up necessarily. It's just more the location. But yeah, sometimes you get these really, really awesome real ranch wedding,
Is that a venue? Like, are there Western venue, or is that really just like somebody's farm or something?
There are like westerny venues, but that particular wedding was it is a venue now, but they're kind of up and coming, so it's their friend's private property that they're using it. Yeah, they were just using it.
And even that next picture, like the fifth one with that bride, that's like just like a stunning, and she has that like jade necklace on.
Yeah.
And that look. Yeah, that's just like
yeah,
that's like a picture you can put like on your wall and have it for just like a lifetime.
Yeah, her every single detail that she had was just so well thought out, and it
looks like a lot of, and even the next one, well, that lay flat type, with the jewelry and stuff in there, everything is, it's almost like, doesn't look real. It looked like they have like a Hollywood set designer or somebody come in and pick out all the stuff that it goes so well.
Yeah, it definitely would say like turquoise jewelry and like
turquoise. I said jade.
Leather. Yeah, like all the leather accessories. Like that's her garter in the corner there. She had like the leather garter, a leather bouquet wrap. And those things are those are like staples, I would say, in like a Western wedding. So
really, like a leather kind of interesting. Yeah, that's something you wouldn't find.
Yeah, it's
like
different.
I guess there are people that make those. Like
they do
out there. And then there was one other photo I just saw before. I wanted to send out, so I'm going to send you another one, and I want you to tell me, is this safe? Like, what the hell is going on? Here's another
man,
one.
I'm scared now. Let's see. Safe.
Again, boring for people at home. Fun for me.
Right.
Now, this picture,
so
I don't know if it's the same. I'll explain what's going on here. There's a bride and a groom. I guess it's a bride and a groom and kissing. And it looks like they're standing inches from like a multi-1,000-pound bull, I guess that is, with horns that are probably 3 feet long, like on each side.
Yes. So this, it is safe. So this is one of those venues.
It's not safe.
It's not, I guess I should preface that.
I guess you're used to it.
It's
or you're
not always safe. I would not recommend that
it looks
people.
Fun.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say.
I would not recommend that people just go out and if you see, so those are longhorn cattle. So if you go out and you see a longhorn, don't
go out and take a picture next to it.
Don't just assume that it's safe, especially if there is bulls. Like that one was a female. So, but if you have a bull, which is a male, they're a little more aggressive or can be. But this is a venue that you can get married at. and it's a stunning venue, but they are friendly. So that particular one that you're looking at in the front, her name is Princess. So yeah, right. But yeah, so it's safe. The owners were out there with us, and they kind of tell you like, okay, that one's like maybe not the most friendly one, so just don't.
But they'll guide you through and say, yeah, this isn't a bad mood today. You can kind of
it wasn't like we just hopped a random fence and ran out there and
hey, this looks fun.
Yeah,
for the gram.
Yeah, do it for the gram.
And I'm guessing you have to there's a lot of landmines out there too. You got to navigate. And you don't want to get that bridal dress. No, but that's
why you have boots.
There you go. I guess so. You can hose them down.
Right, exactly. You're good.
Afterwards. But yeah, that's something you just don't find in a big part of and it's just so interesting. That's such a great type of a wedding, and it just looks like it's really fun. You see, now I was just talking earlier to another wedding photographer here out not too far from where I am, and out in the East Coast, especially I guess and this is not the case for everybody, but there's these very super fancy schmancy, very formal, and that's not like my style, marble and all this kind of like over the top kind of a things, and you don't find too many anything like that. And then the topic really was a little bit that that fancy schmancy thing isn't for everybody. It to me it's not genuine. I would never have anything like that. But I guess there's a growing group of people, and I guess this depends on where you are in the country, who it's not necessarily about having it's more like your personality is more important than it is having some showy super kind of place that really isn't like fit your kind of personality. So
yeah, it's it really is, I think, a personality thing. And some people want the, like you said, like the black tie, very fancy wedding, and some people just want to have it be a fun hangout, like backyard.
That looks like a lot more fun to me. Are there like big barbecues and stuff like afterwards?
Sometimes people do like bonfires afterwards, and people camp out. Like it's way more.
A lot better than rubber chicken sitting in a in a hall. Now it's also the same. Now the first dance with the bride. Everyone goes, oh, but it's all
very structured and
it's just you've seen it a million times, and let's get on with it.
Yeah.
Now the other question I had too is, are all of these people like really cowboys, or is it like someone like me, like a doofus that just goes out and says, yeah, I want a cowboy wedding, and I just get a hat, and people have these type of weddings where they're really not like cowboy or Western or anything. How does that break down? Yeah,
so I would say it's a little of both. So some of the weddings that I do are, they're the type of people that, they love country music, they drive pickup trucks, that's more, they even if they don't live on like a ranch, they just love that lifestyle.
Which is fine.
Totally. But yeah, I wouldn't say all of them are like true cowboys. But I've done weddings, multiple weddings where, they're either professional rodeo cowboys or they're, actual real ranching cowboys and things like that. So it's kind of a mix. But, and like I said, some have horses, some have cows, some have nothing.
I would ride my horse to the wedding.
Yeah. That wedding, yeah.
Do they ride up on their horses and stuff?
I have yet to do a wedding where they actually rode down the aisle, and I think just because...
I don't mean down the aisle, but I mean like go to the wedding or ride up on your...
That would be cool. I haven't had that yet, but yeah, if anybody wants that, hit me up because I'm down for it.
Or they can ride on that big bull.
Right, yeah. That'd be even... There you go.
That's living on the edge.
Yeah, that's really living on the edge.
But it's great. And I guess your geography, in part, dictates that type of a wedding. And that's probably been indigenous to the people in that area. And it really looks fun. It just looks like a great time to do that. But that's not the only style of wedding that's going on out there, or what you do.
No. So I don't live... I'm from a small town. I currently don't live in a super small town, but I still do a lot of like the rural weddings and areas and stuff. But, even with that, it's not like your 6 hours away from salvation, or, you know, like,
Tumbleweeds,
yeah, it's not like, you know, civilization is so far away from where you're at. But there's definitely a lot of open space where I am. It's just, you know, everything's a little more spread out. You still have all your main stores and everything, but it's just not all like right next door to you.
It's
like
a different way of life.
It is.
And
That's
out
for
here.
sure.
Yeah, and the people, I think they would really like your Instagram because it's so, you know, all these photos on here of that style of wedding and so forth. And your horse, you and your horses.
Me and my horses.
Got a couple of horses out there. Saying out here you can't have horses again. There's no room.
Yeah, no room for them. Yeah.
No room in New Jersey for horses.
Yeah.
So that's great though. And that's was when you first started to do weddings, was that like the first style that you did?
So no, actually. And it's funny because, you know, I had grown up with horses. I've always ridden horses, and like Western lifestyle I really loved. But I wouldn't say that when I first started, I was like fresh out of high school, and I didn't really know what I was doing, and I kind of just latched on to what other people were doing and what I thought, like, okay, like that's this person's successful and they're doing this type of wedding. And, you know, at that point it was like all these adventurous like elopements were really, really popular, and people are hiking to the top of a mountain and getting married and all that. And I thought, okay, that's what I have to do to be successful. But when I really think about myself, I'm like, I don't actually want to hike to the top of a mountain.
People are
Like,
climbing to mountains?
yeah, I don't,
Goodness.
you know, that's just not
I'm
really.
missing out. I don't know about any of this stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely like the adventurous elopement thing is really popular, and that was really popular when I started. And I tried to brand myself to be that, but I didn't find much success because I just, that wasn't me. Like I wasn't,
mountain climber.
it's not something that I just go do in my free time. So
You wouldn't want, yeah, I guess I don't have that here either because there's no mountains. We don't have mountains. We just
Yeah.
have very flat, swampy areas.
But yeah, so I definitely started off just taking what I could get and, you know, whatever that looked like. But slowly started to realize, okay, like there are people like me that love this Western industry, and people are getting married out on ranches and doing things that I would want to do. And so I was like, well, if there's one of them, there's probably multiple of them. So kind of just pushed for that. And now that's a majority of what I do.
Yeah, and you just found your thing. And I think that's like the normal course
Yeah.
of people when they start taking photos. You know, the first they're taking flowers and they're taking their dog.
Yeah.
And they don't know what their direction is. And you may think it's one way.
Yeah.
And then you may find yourself taking a turn and you're like, wow, this is what I really like to do. So
Oh, yeah.
you've found that direction. And some people maybe never find
Yeah.
that direction. So you're having a good time doing this. I guess the one thing is, are a lot of these outside? So is weather always a consideration
So
with this?
for this area, I mean, we're kind of blessed with pretty nice weather.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, I guess it's
So, you know, a lot of weddings I do too. Like I'm in Nevada, but a lot of weddings I do are over in California because it's a short drive. But
it doesn't rain all
it like hardly rains.
once a year.
Yeah.
So that was a dumb question on my part.
So, yeah, I mean, our, you know, wedding season goes, I mean, springtime, there's a little more of a risk for rain, but fall is very popular for weddings. I mean, it's usually you don't even have to really think about rain until November, and then maybe until March. And then after that, you're usually, it's kind of hit or miss here and there, maybe for the next 2 months. But yeah, once you're into end of April, early May, it's pretty much sunshine and nice weather.
Yeah, and I guess the season is much longer there too, because again, East Coast or Northeast, especially if something is going to happen outdoors, you have a real narrow window.
Yeah.
You know, you maybe have May, June, July, August, and you know, so it's, but there I guess you can have much more year round, and it's not too, see, like the funny thing is in New Jersey here too, suddenly we've become a subtropical zone, and like every day here this summer was like 98 degrees to 100 degrees and like 200% humidity, and you can't even go outside because it's so like hot and gross. Is it too hot there? Like, because it looks deserty. Is that can be an issue where it's too hot for people?
It can be. I just did a wedding last weekend and it was 105 degrees. Oh my God. So it was a little toasty.
Well, there goes my Western wedding.
Yeah.
Unless maybe I'll have to do it in the fall or the winter when it's.
I think October is a good year or a good time of year to get married around here. It's, not too hot and you don't usually have to worry about rain, but it's usually, seems to be a more comfortable temperature. But yeah,
people can go indoors. I guess there's indoor venues.
Yeah,
so forth.
It's usually really hot in the first part of the day, and a lot of the venues, they get ready on site, and so they're in air conditioning rooms or things like that. But
then they walk out.
Yeah, the ceremony is usually the hottest part, but once the sun starts to go down, it's not too bad.
And once people start having a few drinks, it doesn't matter.
You're
anyway.
fine.
They're like,
right, exactly.
Now, are people packing at these weddings?
Sometimes
out there,
sometimes it really
people walking around. So I'm guessing you don't have to worry about trouble. People are well armed.
I've seen weddings where they all had guns, like all the groomsmen carried like pistols and stuff like that. But I'm sure some people are carrying, but it's, I just did a wedding too where the bride and groom gave each other a gun as a gift. Like they both didn't know they were doing it and they both gave each other a gun as their wedding gift.
Oh, and it's like, surprise. Oh, I got you the same thing. Monogram.
Yeah, we both got each other.
Yeah. And that's just, again, that's part of that, I guess, that culture out there and that, that lifestyle. And that's where people have to understand, in different areas of the country, the way people live are very, very different than others. And that's why you just have to understand that.
Oh,
and as far as what has been the effect out there with the virus situation, has that been an impact for you guys? Or like here, it's been devastating.
Yeah.
But, certain parts of this country haven't really had much of effect whatsoever. So what's it been more out in Nevada? Yeah,
so things have definitely shut down, or they did. I mean, it's not as bad in Nevada as it is in like California, where I know they really shut down a lot. But it was, one of those things where, when this whole thing first happened, it was a lot of people got scared and started moving.
And they didn't know. Yeah. What was that?
So I had, spring weddings moved to the fall. Right. And then, summertime kind of rolls around and I think people were like, all right, like, let's just, let's go on here. And I did a few weddings and then it kind of got scary again and people weren't really sure, like, okay, what should we do? But I think now, and being that a lot of the weddings I do are either on private property or they're just in rural areas, people are just saying like, come at your own risk. Like, we're still going to do it regardless. Like we're going to get married. So, it's kind of a matter of opinion. I know people have different thoughts on it, but
you're right. It's their personal, and because there could be some areas, especially if there aren't a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think life is probably going on.
Yeah. And every wedding that I've gone to recently has had hand sanitizer and masks and they still provide everything for people that want it and things like that. But yeah, I think it really just depends on how you feel.
I think if it's outdoors, if a big part of it's outdoors too, I think you're probably okay.
Exactly.
If it's outdoors. But yeah, that's been I guess something everyone's had to deal with this year as far as rescheduling and people were very scared at first and out here they've been locked up. They wanted to keep you locked in your house for like weeks and months. I was saying before I thought this was going to be done in a couple of weeks. And
I know.
Yesterday I was hearing somebody, I think it was on the radio or I forget where on the news somewhere, saying we may be dealing with this for 2 years. And you're like, oh my God, 2 years of being.
Can you imagine? I don't think people are going to put up with it for that long, honestly.
No. And if there's that level of personal safety, like I think when people feel like this isn't much of a threat, they're gonna they're gonna start to go back to do what they if they're not seeing that evidence of people getting ill, especially out here. Like we were like the first and the worst hit out in New Jersey, and then basically this whole state was like shut down. No, there wasn't a car on the road. And it was bad. It was a lot of people sick, and but now I think there's very few cases. You don't hear about it much anymore, and so I think when that starts to be not in the forefront so much, people will start to get back to
living
their lives.
I think it's going to slowly get back to normal, hopefully.
Yeah. So, but on to happier things. And today we were going to talk a little bit about social media and why people should be on social media, not just posting photos on social media, but you mean putting your own face out there and how that is important to growing your photography business. So we were going to get into a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And why is that important?
Yeah. So I think with, photographers especially, a lot of us tend to think that showing our work just, can stand on its own. And for some people it can, some people, all they do is just post pictures of their work and they get really big and they're super successful doing that. But for people that are just starting out and, they have a hard time getting traction in their business or things like that, I think they lose the importance of what it means to actually show up on social media, because you have to think about what social media is used for. And it's to be social, it's to get to know.
With you.
Yeah. People want to get to know you. And so I think, as a photographer, there's places to really, really push your work and your business side of things, like your website and things like that. But your social media is, of course, show your work too, but that's where people come to learn about you. That's oftentimes where they're going to find you as a person and kind of get that behind the scenes look at your business. So I think it's really important to be showing up so people can kind of get that deeper level connection with you.
Yeah, and I don't think that's always everyone's first thought too. It's just about put my photos. And it's probably an afterthought, if that,
right.
If they start to want to put their own faces on there. And so even somebody who looks like me, even this scary face, I should be...
I think so, and it doesn't have to be anything super wild. I know a lot of photographers, we like to hide behind our cameras. I think it's fun. There's typically photographers out there that will trade like content shoots with you. You guys just go out and have a cup of coffee and take a couple pictures of each other. And, that way you can post a picture of yourself and just start listing off some fun facts, or even showing up on your stories. I think videos are really powerful in business right now.
Instagram stories are good. Yeah.
And I think
so. I should be out there just like videoing my face and like, hey, everybody, just wanted to pop in today. And
yeah. I mean,
but you're right.
Yeah, like a minute a day of just showing up and saying, this is what I'm doing today. Like, hope you guys are having a good day. Like, it doesn't have to be anything super crazy. I think just getting on and creating that interaction with people is going to create engagement. And again, people are going to recognize your face and they're going to start to feel like they know you better. And people tend to buy from people that they know or feel like they know. So I just think that's
and there's so many people that take pictures. So the difference between you and everybody else is
it's yourself. Agreed. Yeah. I mean, and that's a huge one, and I tell people that too, is if there's a photographer whose work is relatively similar to yours and maybe their pricing isn't too far off from yours, what's making, that client choose you over that other photographer? Right. And a lot of times it's you. It's just what you have that makes you different, who you are as a person. So I think it's super important.
Yeah, I agree with you. And people probably don't do that enough because maybe they feel that, that Instagram again is about their photos and that's what's selling everybody. But I think now, as far as a mix, would you say how often should I be putting and more in the stories or just in the news? Because you have a lot of great photos of you in your regular feed too. So
yeah, so I mean, I definitely do it pretty often, but I mean, kind of a general rule of thumb is like when you're on Instagram and you first go onto someone's profile, you tend to see like the first like 9 tiles or squares. I think for every at least 9 squares, you should have your face in there at least once. Obviously, if you do it more, that's better in my opinion. And I've tested this where, usually a picture of my face will actually get more engagement than a picture from a wedding, unless it's like some crazy, super cool wedding or whatever. But on average, a picture of you is going to do a little bit better than even just like a regular shoot. And so I think people, that just shows people want to see you. They want to know.
Yeah. You're right. Because I think you're selling. And if people like you, that's just really the next. She's like, oh yeah, I like her. I like her personality. She seems like somebody I would really want to do my work. And
right, yeah, and just talking about yourself and you know, like I said, fun facts about you, and you can go on and provide value or whatever to brides and grooms as well. But really just showing up and staying consistent and staying front of mind. And stories are really powerful because they're, you know, the algorithm obviously with the feed is all over the place, but stories are chronological currently. So if you post like, you know, on your stories once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once in the evening, you're always kind of jumping to the front of people's stories. So, you know, even throughout the day, they're subconsciously like seeing you throughout the day. And
I think too, it's a little bit more informal there, maybe in that story.
Yeah.
So if you're out somewhere, hey, you know, I'm out getting a cup of coffee or something, and you know, you could put something like that in there. And oh, I love my Starbucks, and those kind of things make you a bit more relatable to people. But I guess, as you mentioned, like in your note here, the point too is this is all about creating engagement. So maybe you want to like elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that's kind of a really big thing on Instagram and social media in general is trying to build that relationship with people. And a lot of times, you know, people are like, well, I don't know what to say. Like, what if nobody replies to me? And people have to get used to you asking them to do things. And I think that translates all the way up until the point of selling. You know, people have to get comfortable with the idea of you saying, hey, I have this offer, this product for you, like, come buy it. And if you start doing that on social media, even just on simple things like, hey, like, this is what I'm doing today. I'm going to the grocery store. Like, you know, this is my favorite, whatever cereal. What's your favorite cereal? You know, it feels a little silly and maybe cheesy, but you know,
but if it's you and it's genuine,
it's something that
you don't want to go too far, but I think that's super helpful to do stuff like that.
Yeah. And just have people like learn a little bit about you. And heck, if you talk about your love for Captain Crunch cereal and somebody
who told you crunch berries,
right?
all crunch berries,
it's the best. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I've had people book me as a wedding photographer because I talk about my love for my dog, and they're like, you know what? You're a dog mom. I'm a dog mom. Like, let's do this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and it's just, and you don't know, and you're never going to please everybody,
right?
But you know, like, being yourself, you know, and I think that is really what people need to do, and that is super helpful in that instance. And something I don't do enough, just not having the time. But I guess it's something you really need to make the time. And that Instagram, like I always say, is like a part-time job, and get in there and start interacting with your people and commenting on their photos and writing these stories about yourself. It really helps in long term. Exactly. Probably not going to see a result overnight.
True.
But you got to keep it up, right?
It is something, it's definitely a matter of consistency. And like I said, you know, people might not, you know, be commenting all over the place on your posts in the beginning because they're not used to you asking them to interact with you. But if you're doing it too, and that's a key thing too, you can't expect people to engage with you if you're not engaging back. So just be a human being, you know, if somebody DMs you or if somebody comments on your post, like, take the time to say thank you, to respond back to them, because that goes a long way for people to feel like you're a real human being on the other side of that, you know. Yeah,
because I think you're right. And there's a point where it's not a person on the other side there. It's just a picture, and you have to bridge that connection and make it seem a little bit more personal. And I think that's a big key in winning those battles and getting those people to contact you. Oh, he's not so scary, or she's not so scary, or I thought he was such a fancy person, or I could never talk to someone like that. And then be like, oh, she likes dogs just like me.
Yeah. And you made the point about, you know, being real on stories. It's a little less formal, you know, because I think everybody kind of gets caught up in wanting your feed to look really perfect and, you know, have everything go together. And so maybe, but, you know, that's kind of like a highlight reel of, okay, here's all these really pretty photos, but your stories is like, look, I didn't put makeup on today. I'm wearing sweatpants all day. Like, I'm real just like you. Here I am, you know? So I think that kind of stuff really goes a long way for sure.
And how often should people be doing that and getting on there?
You know, I think ideally every day, but I know that is, kind of takes some time to get used to and maybe to get a good routine going. So, I mean, I would say as far as posting on your feed, like in general, 3 times a week would be nice if you can get a post up. And then your stories, like I said, if you can just post a story 1 minute a day of, rather.
It doesn't take long.
Yeah. Just first thing in the morning or at night or whatever's most convenient for you to just pop up and say, hey, how's it going? Like, this is what I'm doing. What are you guys doing today? And Instagram makes the engagement thing pretty easy. They have all those different things you can put on your stories, like the little.
I like the music.
Yeah.
I always like finding a little song and putting it on there.
Songs, the little question boxes, the polls, like all of that stuff, and the more people that engage on that and actually click on it or use those features, the more it tells Instagram, like, this is important content because people are engaging with it, and it's going to start sending it out to other people and boosting that so more eyes get on your stuff. So that's kind of, what we all want, is to get more eyes on our profiles and to look at our work and to find us and see us. So creating engagement, even with small followings. And I think that's another issue a lot of people have is, oh, I have 100 followers. Like I don't have enough to do this. Yeah. Right. And it's like, no, if you're not doing it with 100 followers, you're not going to do it when you have 10,000 followers. You're not going to do it when you have, 50,000, you have to treat that, and I always like to use the comparison of, if you had your number of followers standing in a room right in front of you and you had to get on stage and talk in front of them, like, even if it's 20 people, that's a classroom, that's a good point. That's still a good amount of people that you're having to speak to. So, don't let your numbers, that number above your name, get caught up in your brain. Don't let that hold you back from showing up and providing value to people. So,
and one thing I see more maybe in stories that if I'm looking at other photographers are there, I always see people trying to sell things like, here's my special and this special. And to me, it doesn't seem like the place for sales, on there. What are your thoughts on just being you or presenting your work versus it always trying to sell somebody something?
So yeah, I think there's a time and place for it, but I think the people that, if all you're ever doing is selling and you're just going on and sell, you're going to turn people away. You're going to turn people off. So, my big thing is serving people before you ever sell them, serving them free value, providing information to them that's helpful, and, whatever your business is. But for photographers, if you are in the wedding industry or whatever industry, providing brides with tips for planning their wedding and things that, maybe as a photographer, you're not a wedding planner, but you have insight to things or tips and tricks being a photographer that of, the best lighting to shoot in and things that people might not know.
Find useful.
To talk about those things.
To be more of a resource. Yeah. And I think the sales will come later, but
it's all about building a relationship, and I've used the analogy too of, like, you wouldn't just walk into a bar and walk up to someone and ask them to marry you.
Sarah, speak for yourself.
Yeah, right. Maybe you would.
Someone like me, that's my only shot.
Maybe you would.
All right, but you mean most people.
Most people.
Except the person you're talking. All right, go ahead. Proceed with your, keep talking.
Yeah, most people would not. But, you go in and you're going to, maybe sit down, have a conversation. Right. You're going to date them for a while.
It's a dating process.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
And then eventually, once you feel like you like them and know them, hopefully love them, then you'll marry them. But, and that's how I feel about business. Is it's all about creating a relationship. You're not just meeting some random person on the internet and saying, hey, like, hire me to be your,
bunch of money.
Hire me to be your wedding wife.
But
you wouldn't just tell them to do that because.
And that's not obvious to a lot of people either. It's just, and especially I think too, in the wedding business or any kind of if you're just talking in terms of photography where you're selling a high ticket item, you're talking could be in the thousands of dollars. Nobody just pops up and says, I want to hire you. Here you go. There is usually a bit of a process of convincing that person in one form or another that you are worthy of that money. And it's it takes a while.
It does.
It's a relationship that, unless you get lucky and it's a referral, like I was talking to some, oh, you did my friend so-and-so's wedding and we want you. But if it's just someone who shows up, they're like, all right, I got to find out about this person before I'm handing over this money.
Exactly, because it's a good chunk of money that they're paying to have you there. And it's a really, if it is their wedding, it's usually a really important day of their life.
Yeah, that's right.
So they don't want just any Joe Schmo off the street. Like, they want to make sure they know you and trust you. And, you're going to be with them during some pretty intimate moments of their day. So it's,
with giant steers.
Yeah, exactly. It could be, you guys could all get rammed together. Like, right. You got to make sure that
they want to know, are you going to take the horns if it comes down for it?
Yeah, you got to take yeah, exactly. Throw yourself in front of them.
The Secret Service takes the bullet. You got to jump in and take the, so they need to know you're that kind of a person, Sarah.
Exactly.
So that's what's important there. Yeah. But also when it comes to using Instagram, and it could be a big branding tool for photographers. And I know you wanted to talk a little bit about that as well, because that's another thing that takes a lot of work. And, whether you do it yourself or you're hiring somebody to create these images for you, I don't think people focus on that necessarily as much as they should.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it does go along with just showing your face, and that's definitely part of creating your personal brand. But, I think people, think, okay, I have this photography business, which, yes, that is your business. But again, what makes you stand out is your branding. Right. And so, I like to tell people, the easiest way to kind of get into that idea is to pick like 5 topics, and we call these your brand pillars. And they're kind of just like 5 topics that you're always going to kind of circle back to, if you don't know what to talk about in a caption or you don't know what to post about, it just kind of helps guide you along. And they don't all have to do with your business. So if you are a wedding photographer, one of those things can be wedding photography tips, and you provide education to brides-to-be.
Others.
But, other things just have to do with you. Like if, your dog is a huge part of your life, and, that can be one of your pillars. You talk about being a dog mom and how it was getting your dog, and, whatever. There's a billion things you can talk about regarding your dog. And those are things that, again, it has nothing to do with your business per se, but it has to do with who you are. And if you're, putting that out on social media, like maybe somebody finds you on social media because of your love for your dog, and they follow you because you talk about your dog. And then eventually they have to get married, or they know somebody getting married. And now they're like, oh, you know what? Like, I totally know of a wedding photographer, but they found you because of your dog. So it's just,
who knew?
Yeah, it's kind of a different way to like maybe grow your audience to different people that are, they're leads that don't even necessarily have to do, they might not have been looking for a wedding photographer, but they find you, and now you come to the front of their mind anytime they think about their dog, and now they need a wedding photographer for something.
No, you're right. I think you have to come down on something. You have to sort of stand for something, or you have to be about something, because otherwise, again, I think people sometimes are worried maybe turning off, but then when you stand for nothing, I think you kind of are saying nothing.
Agreed.
On another aspect. So what are some good things that you can use to kind of be like your pillars, as you call them?
Yeah, so I think can be either where you're located. If you, maybe live in like a cool area, you can talk about just what it's like to live there. I mean, some people, if you live in Hawaii, like a lot of people would love to just learn about what it's like to live in Hawaii. Or, if you're involved in a sport, or you have another hobby outside of photography or your business, maybe you love knitting and you talk about that, you do that, it can be hobbies, locations.
Something that's important to you.
Yeah,
you mean to,
food, whatever it is, your love for Starbucks, anything that you feel really represents you. And if you don't know, if you're like, oh, I'm just a boring average person, like, I don't know.
Find something.
And it doesn't have to be anything super crazy. Like I said, so many people love Starbucks, but they connect with other people when they're like, oh yeah, this is my favorite Starbucks drink. And they're like, me too. They just.
Right. And then you can, it's a connection that you can make with someone. I think you need to be genuine about that.
Absolutely.
As me, I don't drink coffee, so I'm not going to go posting cup is me of holding my my cup.
That's exactly what it is. Don't and you know, that kind of goes back to me when I first started and I was trying to say, oh yeah, like let's go on this crazy adventure up a mountain,
hanging off a cliff,
and like I'm totally all about it, when in reality that's not me. And if people ask me like, okay, what's the best like mountaintop location to get married at, I have no idea because I've never done it. You know, I just that's not something I do in my free time. So that was something I had to learn. But when it comes to Western weddings, like I'm educated on Western lifestyle. You know, I live it. I could recommend places for you to get different, you know, types of accessories for your wedding or anything like that too, you know. So really figure out yourself and don't pay too much attention to what other people are doing. And if you really are able to like niche down and use your branding, that personal brand, to figure out who you're speaking to, who that ideal client would be for you, you know, you're going to be so much happier too, booking like your dream clients versus just people that you don't really get along with. They're not people you'd be friends with in everyday life because you just don't have anything in common. But once you start booking people that you're like, oh my gosh, we have so many things in common, like we totally would hang out outside of this, it changes the game, I think, so much.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that needs to be, I wouldn't do that in every single post.
Yeah.
Again, maybe.
For
but,
sure, yeah.
You know, pop up and talk a little bit about your Starbucks every once in a while, or show your dog, hey, here's me and Fido.
And that's why I say go on like a rotation, you know, and you could even have it set to where like, okay, Mondays I talk about a wedding tip.
Mondays coffee.
Yeah. Mondays I'm going to talk about my coffee, or, you know, pop into your stories if you have coffee and say, okay, like here we are. You know, you can make it fun for yourself and, you know, still post pictures of your work, you know, post a picture of that wedding you just shot, but then in your stories you're showing yourself editing that wedding while drinking your cup of coffee. And, you know, they can all intertwine. So, you know, there's not like one particular right way to do it, but I just think, it's just important to do it. Just do it.
What are your thoughts like on, you know, now live is a big thing. Facebook people are going on live. Instagram people are going on live. And a lot of people are afraid of that. If they're like, get up there and they're like, I don't know really what to say.
Yeah.
So I think that could be helpful. Do you have any thoughts on using like Instagram Live or Facebook Live?
I think Live is a super powerful tool, and it's something that I could utilize more as well. But I think, you know, it's scary. A lot of people are scared just to go on their stories, and that's pre-recorded. But Live is like a whole different thing. You know, it's, you know, you're so worried about making a mistake, but I think that's where people go wrong.
But it's genuine. Yeah.
That's what people, you know,
happen.
even if you're on live and your dog starts barking or your kid starts crying, you know, to me, people are going to relate to that. They see, again, you're a real person.
Doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. Show up live in your messy hair and no makeup or sweatpants or whatever, cleaning your house. You know, I think it's just a matter of showing up, and, you know, no matter what that looks like. And people love the real versus if you're sitting in a studio perfectly primped and everything looks, you know, amazing. People don't relate to that.
Yeah. And this, I'm repeating myself for like the third or fourth time I've mentioned this, and what I was going to say is I was looking at a photographer's profile. I don't want to get into the story again, how I found this, but the interesting thing about it, they were selling something. So I was curious about, and I was trying to find them, and it was hard to look up their details, but on this person's Instagram profile, and they had different kind, again, I don't want to detail, they were different kind of, they were wedding, and there were 2 or 3 other kinds, but every picture on the profile was just them. Oh. Just them in these like millennial influencer, like everything was smiling. You know, it wasn't real. It was just like every staged photo of this person, you know, sitting at a laptop smiling ridiculously and holding a coffee cup and smiling ridiculously. Yeah. Nothing was real. Yeah. And to me, first, I don't know why they didn't have pictures on there. It was all just them, but it wasn't genuine. So I think that even when you're talking about people are worried about being too much themselves, going the opposite way, I don't think, to me anyway, that's not such a great thing either, when everything is staged and phony and it's, you know, I'm working so hard at my laptop, but yet I have a giant smile on my face, but this is really me.
Exactly.
You know?
And I mean,
I was like, ugh.
And that's the thing is like, yeah, sure, it's fun to have the cute, you know, this is me in a really,
once in a while.
fancy coffee shop doing my work, but like in reality, I don't work like that. You know, I'm half the the time.
If someone's sitting there with a giant smile on their face working on photo, I think they're like a crazy person. They're on medication. No one sits there like grinning ear to ear like that.
Yeah, I sit in my dark cave and I have like a blanket over my head. Like,
that's right.
So I mean, and people are so scared to, again, they just want to create this image of like perfection, but people don't relate. You post the iPhone photo, as photographers, that's really scary for us too, is, oh my gosh, we cannot post an iPhone photo. But you know what? I think just get over it and do it, and you'll be surprised that people don't actually care that much if you post an iPhone photo on Instagram, So if it's of you in a real situation and you're like, this is what I look like today, this is how I'm editing, and
and it's a fine line. I think you don't want to be super sloppy like everyone and go the opposite extent where you're like, I'm just so casual, because people are like, all right, this is the person I'm going to hire, and they're like, but I think you got to find that middle ground.
Absolutely.
And not too much one extreme, and just be you. I think the ultimate thing here is just to be yourself.
Yeah.
Don't be like a fake Instagram person, where everything is posed and phony. I know I'm living this crazy lifestyle. I don't think that translates when it comes to business.
No, I don't.
So much as like trying to be an influencer isn't the place you want to operate in.
Yeah. And if you think about it too, if you post all this phony stuff and it's not really you, if you, talk a certain way on social media, but that's not how you talk in real life, what are you going to do when people meet you in real life? They hire you based off this image that you've put on social media, and now they meet you in real life and you're nothing like your Instagram self. So, you don't want to be perceived as something that you're not.
Just be you.
Just be yourself.
Just be yourself.
Exactly.
And then I think you noted here, the other thing too is about being consistent with this is, I guess I shouldn't be posting like one post a month. It's not
So
not going to help me.
Like I said, I mean, ideally, if you can do it daily, that would be amazing. I think batch working is really helpful. So, I think that's a big struggle is a lot of people, think, okay, I have to post every single day, but like, I don't know what to say. You have like a brain fart as you're about to, post something on Instagram. Right. So if, find what kind of inspires you. For me, it's either listening to podcasts or playing music or going on a walk or whatever that might be for you. But, if sometimes when I'm driving, I just come up with like a really good idea to talk about. Yeah. And so you can either just like get a little voice recording out and just like say it so you remember it, or make a little note or whatever.
A voice note, yeah.
And come back to it. But, I just in the notes in my phone, like anytime I think of like a good caption idea, I just write it down.
That's a good tip. Yeah.
And then, kind of
when inspiration strikes.
Yeah. And that way you have like a whole bunch of captions like pre-made. And so when you have to post on Instagram that day, you can just copy and paste it and use that and, put a picture up that looks pretty or whatever picture you want to use. I wonder
if part of it sometimes too is people think like, nothing exciting going on in my life. Every day I wake up, walk to the living room, sit down, watch the TV, get up, go to bed. Maybe they think there isn't anything going on, but I think you have to find those moments and I don't know.
Again,
maybe that's why people don't do it.
Again, it's all about remembering that people are in the same position as you. I know that was kind of a big thing right now with the whole virus and everybody kind of being inside is they're trapped. Like, nothing's happening. What do I even talk about? But everybody feels that way. So, I think if you talk about it too much, obviously it can be overwhelming to people too. If you're just like, okay, this is boring, this is horrible, it sucks. People don't want you to just be complaining either, but people come to you to either be educated, inspired, or, entertained. So to me, it's like if your post can provide something like that, or talk about something totally different. If you don't feel like, okay, today is not an exciting day, I don't want to talk about what I'm doing today, just come up with something, like I said, figure out a tip you can share with people for something, or, some advice for brides to be, or whatever type of photographer you are, just kind of helping people, providing some sort of value to them, I think is just really important. And that's I think
as you do it, it becomes a little easier because I think your brain starts to get in, it starts working.
And storytelling.
and it just starts to, all right, now I'm going to, and the more you do it, I think it just becomes a little bit easier, and you don't have to think about it. And I think people get bogged down in the, I don't know what I'm going to say thing.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I don't even think about it. I just go, whatever happens kind of, it just pops into your brain. So don't overthink it.
Yeah. And storytelling is huge. I mean, it's, when you do post a picture of like a wedding, instead of just, it drives me crazy when I see people that just post a picture of maybe this like stunning wedding, and then their caption is like, oh, lovers at sunset, and like that's it. To me, it's like, give me more. I want to know like who.
So you like the longer post?
Yeah, and it doesn't.
You really like more.
It doesn't always have to be like 3 pages long, but a little more depth of like, who are these people? Why did they end up there? Like, what's their story? Like, give me more insight on it, because I think people want to connect with that, and they want to learn more, and people love to have other people talk about them. So, it's just true. We're all kind of narcissistic in that way. We love to talk about ourselves, and it's almost like for those clients, if you're posting a picture of them and you're talking about them and their story, that's really exciting for them, and they're going to be likely to share that and then have other people see it, and you want to create that content.
But I think writing, and it's hard again, because writing is hard, and maybe we'll talk about a little bit this, because Instagram isn't the only thing. You could have blogs and other things, but people struggle, I think, with the captioning. It's exactly because they don't know what to say, so they'll put an emoji in there and hit it, because it takes time. Again, it takes time and effort, but I think some people pre-write those things out and copy and paste them, but I think too, the more you do it, it gets a little bit easier to fall into like a little bit of a pattern.
You
definitely, it's not so difficult.
Yeah, you definitely will. The more you practice, the more you do it. Just like anything, it just takes practice. It takes time. And I think the most important thing to do, or, to keep in mind, is just, one, do it, but also be yourself. Talk like yourself. Don't try to go on and sound very like professional and like pristine. If you're the type of girl that goes on and is like, hey girl, what's up? Like, talk like that, don't try to, dear client, like, how are you today? Like,
and then people do that because they don't know.
Yeah.
And I think over time you kind of find out who you are. Like you said with the wedding, you find your path, and then once you kind of hit your stride, it gets a little bit easier. But I guess Instagram, maybe not, that's not for everybody, but these rules just don't certainly apply to Instagram.
No, absolutely not. It can be anything. And like I said, there's no one right way to do it. I think it's kind of all about testing, and Instagram's forever changing. So, you might as well have fun with it and figure out what works for you, and kind of, try different things, experiment, see what works with your audience and what doesn't, kind of just try your different things out and post different types of content. And you never know, something might totally get a ton of engagement that you never would have expected. And, then
and I think it's discouraging when people are starting too, because they think, oh, no one liked my video.
Yeah.
No one liked, and people use that, I think, as a metric. They take that a little bit too seriously when they shouldn't. Followers and likes, and it, you got to keep doing it.
Exactly.
Because at first you're going to be talking to nobody or posting to nobody, and do it. You got to be consistent, and you can't. I don't think you have as a short term. I'm only going to do this for a week. You got to say, I'm going to put 6 months into this. I'm going to put a year into this before I evaluate, not just 1 or 2 or 3 posts because you only got one like.
Exactly. And that's it too, is, figure it out, like write it down, figure out, okay, I posted consistently 3 days a week. This is what I talked about. This was what kind of interaction I got from that. Or maybe you booked something this month and, because of this post and not because of this one, so you can kind of play around with it, see what works, see what doesn't. But like you said, don't just do it once, and if it doesn't work, then give up. Try it for a few months and see what happens then, because it's not going to happen overnight. I know everybody wants it to, but it's just not how it works.
It's hard, and it's a part, I think, of the job that people don't immediately understand. They think they're going to grab a camera, people are going to start knocking on their door, and it doesn't work that way. And this has turned into another aspect of a job that you have to dedicate time to, I think, and people aren't comfortable with this in every instance, but I think you need to sit down, if not every day, say, all right, an hour a week or whatever it is, and dedicate to, because so many people, it's like 1 billion people on Instagram or something. I don't know what the number is, like so many people that you have to be at least have some presence on there. Because people will find you. You know, they search those tags. Western wedding, boom, who pops up? Sarah. And she's going to get all the business.
They do. Yeah. Hashtag. I mean, we could go on and on about so many things. But yeah, I mean, it's really just, I think when it comes down to it, you know, show your work, show your talent and your craft that you've worked so hard.
And have fun with it. I think that's a part of it too, is just have fun. Don't make it so like a chore.
Yeah, exactly. Totally have fun. You know, like I said, try different things, figure out what works for you, because it's not always going to be what worked for everybody else, you know?
Right.
So
it's
super important.
So do you think I should go on Amazon today and buy some boots? Start taking pictures of my boots? You think that's going to work for you? Hey, brides, check me out. My boots. Boots and boudoir.
Oh,
Western boudoir, cowboy hat
that
and boots.
Could be a thing.
You think I'm on it? I'll fly out. We'll do a Western on the ranch.
Right? You could be onto something there.
Yeah, that's my little niche thing.
Right?
Coming soon, 2021.
You got it. I love it. That's funny.
So we talked about a lot of stuff here today.
That we did.
And you're doing some education. You're taking some students.
Yeah.
And what I want you to do is tell everybody where, you know, they can find you, what's going on your website.
Yeah. So it's, it's been,
and I'm going to order my boots while you're,
get on that. It's been a really fun year to kind of transition into doing something a little bit different and helping other photographers grow their business. I know it's been a wild year. So, 2021 is looking bright. Like, I know, let's hope everything goes up from here. But, I've been having a lot of fun, teaching other photographers, how to grow businesses and things like that. And I have lots of fun things coming in the next few months and especially in 2021. So, one of the best places to find me and stay up to date with everything is Instagram. So that's at sarahjessica.photo. And then my website is sarahjessicaphoto.com. I'm on YouTube at Sarah Spackman.
You have a lot of videos. You do good videos too.
You.
See, that's like a lot of work.
Thank you.
See, I could appreciate that, you know, when people going on there and doing all that content, and it's good information.
Thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, all kinds of places. I have a Facebook group, the SJP Society, and that's where I do a lot of free education for photographers. So, you guys can definitely go on and join that. But yeah, there's going to be some new online courses that are going to be launching here soon. I have plans to do a content creation course and a photography course. So, those are all going to be coming soon. So definitely stay tuned, jump on one of those platforms, and you'll definitely be one of the first to know about it. So it's going to be good.
Yeah. So what are you working on with people lately? I see you on your Facebook Lives, like what's going on there a little bit, or just with wedding photography, or just with photography in general? You're helping people?
I do one-on-one coaching. And a lot of that is for people that just, you know, it varies. Some are brand new photographers that have never even touched a camera really. And so we can do either virtual coaching where we get on just like a Zoom call and we can talk about your questions. And I also do full day elite mentoring sessions where we'll meet up in person. We'll sit down and we'll have a conversation about all of your questions. We can go over camera settings, editing, and then I'll actually set
from the very beginning.
I'll set up a shoot for us, and we can go out and shoot a styled, you know, couple or whatever. And you can see how I would shoot normally, and then you can get in there and take your own photos as well. And we can go over prompting and posing and all that kind of fun stuff.
It's a lot to learn. Yeah.
It is. So, and I know, you know, just getting the confidence to do it is a big thing. And I've been helping people, you know, just working on marketing strategies once they feel like, okay, like I feel like I take pretty good pictures, but now it's a matter of how do I fill up my calendar? How do I actually start booking?
Because you don't realize how much you need to know when you're, and just when if you're fresh and just getting started and you think you've got it, there's always something else.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about this. Oh, I didn't realize this. Oh, I didn't realize I had to know this. So there's so much. And, you know, finding a coach or a mentor is such an important thing, you know, because they can help you jump years ahead So whatever that costs,
It is.
whatever that person is charging you, is insignificant into the of 3 years of not maybe figuring it out on your own. So it's always well worth
Oh
it.
yeah, that's huge. People don't realize that, but I mean, nothing's, a secret really. You can pretty much Google anything, but the hard part is figuring out what questions do you actually, you don't always know.
You see, and it's like I could Google about, how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
But
To have
that's not
somebody-
going to teach me how to ride
Yeah.
a bike, until you actually get out there and do it. So you're right. There are courses and people can find it, but I don't think there's any replacement for me sitting down with you one-on-one or me talking to you and say, hey, how can I? And then you can walk somebody through that. So
customizable that way. We can make a marketing plan that works for you specifically. Right. So yeah, I definitely love one-on-one mentoring and coaching. So there's all that information's on my website as well, or you can DM me on Instagram.
And you have a great website. We were talking, I don't remember if that was even in the record part or not, but
thank you.
People need to go look at your website.
Thank you.
Great website. You're out there in the wilderness.
Yeah, lots of wilderness and nature frolicking.
Videos of you walking down the dusty roads out with the tumbleweeds, and it's like great though.
Thank you.
It's like
I'm all about it.
like,
yeah. If you guys want to have a boot scooting good time,
that's exactly what I was going to say next. That was the next words.
There you go.
Like
Something super cheesy
out of my mouth there. So
perfect.
See, and here we go.
I love it.
So, but we covered a lot of ground today.
Did. Love it.
We learned that I'm going to be buying some boots.
Yep. Yeah, I want to see it.
And we learned that when I do have my Western wedding, you're going to stand between the bull and me. I still want to do the shot there. Yeah. So that way when they start charging, I'm going to hold you in front.
Got you. Yeah. Yeah.
We always got to protect the host.
Shield.
Remember, I'm the most important person
agreed.
there.
Yep.
And then, we learned that I didn't even know this was a thing. And this is great.
Yep.
So now I'm going to have a Western wedding, and I'm just going to listen to this song for the rest of the afternoon. I don't even know what it is.
That's good. It's very calming.
And now I understand. And I'm just rocking in my chair, and you're just rocking in your chair.
We're all swaying.
It's like we both need naps.
I know,
and
it's so nice.
Just getting tired, but it was good. And I just appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you so much.
And learning a little bit about what you do. And like I said, it's always fun meeting people and seeing what's going on out there. And, I know everybody's busy, so I'm always grateful to come in and share.
Yeah.
And the only thing we really have left here to do today is for you just to say goodbye so we can get the hell out of here.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate being here. And yeah, I hope you guys all, have a great rest of your 2020. And I hope, life gets...
Have a boot scooting good time.
What was my line? Have a
boot scooting
good time. There you go. That's my signature.
Put that on your website.